I think they haven't understood something. When we say the homeland or death we shall overcome, it's not just a phrase, it has its full meaning. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid. We will continue our struggle. They have undoubtedly and surely scared numerous African heads of state. We ask them questions about why you don't do as we do, why you don't support us.
The story unfolding between Burkina Faso and Pakistan is not simply about cotton, nor is it simply about economics. It is about a new chapter in global power struggles, a chapter in which Africa and Asia are uniting to challenge centuries of Western control. At the very center of this tectonic shift is an unexpected but powerful commodity: cotton. And the fury of the United States today tells us everything about how fragile its dominance has become. Burkina Faso, a landlocked West African nation often dismissed by global powers as too small to matter, has emerged as one of the continent's most important cotton producers. For decades, however, Burkina Faso's cotton sector was controlled and exploited by Western corporations, particularly American textile giants, who dictated prices, quality standards, and trade terms. The West kept Burkina Faso locked into the role of raw material supplier, ensuring that profits always flowed out of Africa while farmers remained poor. But that system is collapsing, and the collapse began the moment Ouagadougou and Islamabad signed a colossal cotton deal valued at tens of billions of dollars that bypassed the United States entirely. This agreement is not just about trade. It is about sovereignty. It is about Africa and Asia deciding, for the first time in modern history, to shape their future without waiting for Western approval. For Pakistan, this deal is nothing short of revolutionary. As a global player in the textile industry, Pakistan has long relied on cotton imports. American corporations, through global financial and trade systems, always had a say in who supplied Pakistan's cotton and at what price. Now, with Burkina Faso as a direct and sovereign supplier, Pakistan no longer has to bow to U.S. influence. It can bypass Western middlemen, secure raw materials directly from Africa, and expand its textile exports globally. And for Burkina Faso, the benefits are monumental. No longer will its cotton farmers be forced to sell at rock-bottom prices determined by Wall Street or Washington. Instead, the nation has secured long-term contracts that guarantee fair value, infrastructure development, and technology transfers. Pakistan is not only buying cotton, it is helping Burkina Faso build local processing plants, textile factories, and training centers. For the first time in decades, the profits from African cotton will remain in Africa. It is this shift, the breaking of America's monopoly, that has Washington seething with rage. For generations, the U.S. textile industry relied on its ability to manipulate global cotton flows. Through subsidies, tariffs, and trade rules, Washington created an uneven playing field. American farmers received billions in subsidies, while African farmers were left to compete in an artificially depressed market. The U.S. controlled global cotton prices to its advantage, undermining African competitiveness and ensuring its corporations reaped maximum profits. Now that system has been shattered. Burkina Faso has found a new partner in Pakistan, one that doesn't dictate terms from a position of exploitation, but instead offers cooperation and mutual growth. And the fury of the United States is not just about money. It is about power. It is about control. It is about the realization that the old order is being dismantled before its eyes. The outrage in Washington is visible. American politicians have called emergency hearings, accusing Pakistan of aligning with authoritarian states simply for doing business with Africa. Corporate lobbyists are demanding sanctions, warning that America's textile industry could collapse if African cotton stops flowing through U.S.-controlled channels. Newspapers scream about economic betrayal, as though Africa owes perpetual allegiance to the West. But beneath all this noise lies a simple truth: America is angry. Because it has lost control. Let us not underestimate the symbolism here. Cotton is not just another commodity, it is one of the most historically charged products in global trade. Cotton built empires, cotton fueled slavery, cotton funded industrial revolutions. For centuries, African labor produced the cotton that enriched the West while impoverishing the continent itself. To see Burkina Faso take cotton out of Western hands and place it in a sovereign deal with Pakistan is nothing short of poetic justice. It is a rewriting of history. This deal also signals the rise of a new Africa, an Africa that no longer accepts being treated as a pawn in someone else's chess game. Captain Ibrahim and his government in Burkina Faso have made it clear: their nation will not be dictated to by Washington, Paris, or London. They will choose their partners based on sovereignty, respect, and shared interest. and Pakistan, with its textile expertise and willingness to engage on equal terms, has proven a far more attractive partner than the United States ever was. The fury of the US grows when one considers the ripple effects. Already, other African nations are studying Burkina Faso's example. Mali, Niger, and Chad, all cotton-producing nations, are in discussions with Pakistan and even India for similar deals. The US fears a domino effect, that once African nations taste freedom from Western cotton dependency, they will never return to the old system. Washington sees its entire hold over African agriculture slipping through its fingers. The fury also grows from the fact that this deal represents not just economics, but geopolitics. Pakistan is a nuclear power, a nation that has historically balanced itself between the West and the East. By allying with Burkina Faso, Pakistan is signaling its independence from Washington's dictates. It is telling the world that it too is ready to build new alliances in the global South. For the US, this is a nightmare scenario. Africa and Asia uniting, with no need for American permission. Decades ago, Washington could topple governments, install puppets, and crush any African leader who dared defy its interests. But today, the situation is different. Burkina Faso has the backing of regional alliances, the support of a rising Africa, and now strong partners in Asia. Any attempt at destabilization risks igniting a broader anti-Western backlash across the continent. The US is trapped, its hands tied by its own declining influence. The fury has reached American farmers as well. Cotton farmers in Texas, Mississippi, and Georgia, long accustomed to generous subsidies and guaranteed markets, are now facing an uncertain future. With Pakistan sourcing cotton directly from Africa, demand for American cotton will plummet, prices will fall, subsidies will no longer shield farmers from global realities, and in the heartland of America, frustration is mounting. The fury is spreading from Washington elites to ordinary farmers, who feel betrayed by a government unable to protect their interests. Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou and Islamabad, celebrations continue. This deal is more than economics, it is a statement of independence. It tells the world that Africa and Asia can trade, cooperate, and prosper without Western permission. It proves that the age of Western monopolies is over, and it sends a clear message to Washington. The future will not be written in American boardrooms, but in the capitals of the global South. The United States is furious because it knows what this means. It means Africa has finally woken up. It means Asia is no longer playing second fiddle. It means that the US, once the unchallenged master of global trade, is being left behind. And the anger in Washington cannot mask the deeper reality. America is not furious because Burkina Faso and Pakistan signed a deal. America is furious because it is losing its grip on the world. The cotton deal is just the beginning. It is a symbol of a new era in which nations once dismissed as developing are developing their own rules, their own partnerships, and their own destiny. The US is furious because it cannot stop the tide of history. And history, make no mistake, is being written not in Washington, but in Ouagadougou and Islamabad. The cotton deal between Burkina Faso and Pakistan was not written in silence, nor was it whispered in backrooms. It was shouted on the global stage with a force that the world could not ignore. And the fury of the United States has only intensified as the deal's true implications unfold, echoing across continents. At its heart, this deal is about liberation. For far too long, Africa's raw materials were shackled to systems designed in Washington, Brussels, and Paris. The very sweat of African farmers fueled Western prosperity. Cotton, cocoa, oil, uranium, every single resource was carved out of the continent with little return for its people. The world was told this was global trade, but in reality, it was exploitation disguised as partnership. Burkina Faso's deal with Pakistan has ripped the mask off. It says clearly, Africa no longer plays the role of silent supplier. Africa is no longer begging at the tables of the West. Africa is now choosing its own partners, negotiating its own terms, and writing its own destiny. The fury in the US is magnified by the fact that this deal was not forced by desperation but chosen from strength. For decades, Washington sold Africa the myth that only through Western financial systems and Western corporations could African products reach global markets. Burkina Faso just shattered that myth by turning eastward. Pakistan, a South Asian powerhouse in textiles, looked to Burkina Faso and saw not just cotton but opportunity, mutual growth, shared benefits, and long-term sovereignty. This enrages Washington because it exposes the fragility of its empire. For centuries, the US could count on one thing. When it wanted African resources, it got them through multinational corporations, through IMF and World Bank conditionalities, through military bases and covert operations. It always got them. But today, Burkina Faso is saying no, and that no, echoed through a multi-billion-dollar cotton deal, has sparked a fury that American power is powerless to contain. Consider the ripple effects already visible. In Bamako, Mali's leaders are now openly negotiating their own cotton supply deals with Asian markets. Niger, Chad, and even Sudan are exploring similar routes. By linking with Pakistan, Burkina Faso has opened a doorway that the rest of West Africa is preparing to walk through. What Washington fears most is not just the deal itself, but the precedent it sets, a domino effect that could unravel the entire architecture of U.S. economic control over Africa. The fury in America is not just in Washington boardrooms, it is spreading into the heartland. Cotton farmers across the United States are watching contracts slip away. For decades, they were shielded by subsidies and given access to global markets where American influence dictated the rules. But now, with Pakistan redirecting its purchasing power to Burkina Faso, U.S. cotton prices are falling. Entire farming towns in Texas, Mississippi, and Georgia are trembling under the weight of collapsing markets. The fury of American farmers is turning toward their own government, accusing Washington of losing its grip on global trade. This internal fury is dangerous. For when anger burns in the heartland, political chaos is not far behind. Already, American politicians are demanding sanctions against Burkina Faso and Pakistan. They call it betrayal, they call it aligning with adversaries, but the truth is simpler. America is no longer accustomed to being ignored, and now that it is being ignored by nations it once dismissed as insignificant, its fury has turned into desperation. But the more Washington rages, the weaker it looks. Sanctions against Burkina Faso, against Pakistan? Such moves would only accelerate the shift toward non-Western alliances. The fury of the U.S. exposes its declining influence, because power that must shout, threaten, and coerce is no longer power, it is fear. And make no mistake, America is afraid. It is afraid because cotton is not just cotton. Cotton is a symbol of empire, a symbol of slavery, a symbol of global exploitation. The United States knows its own history, how African labor and stolen cotton fields once fueled its rise as a global superpower. To see African cotton now used as the tool of liberation, to see Burkina Faso turn this very commodity into a weapon of sovereignty, is to witness the collapse of centuries-old power dynamics. It is history reversing itself in real time. And then there is Pakistan. Washington's fury doubles when it looks at Islamabad. For decades, the U.S. used Pakistan as a pawn in its strategic games, alternating between ally and scapegoat. But now Pakistan is charting its own course, no longer content to be controlled by Washington's demands. By choosing Burkina Faso, Pakistan is sending a clear message. It is a nation that will decide its own destiny. This infuriates the U.S. because it signals that the global South is uniting in ways America cannot stop. Let us also examine the wider geopolitical map. China, already deepening its ties with Africa, has welcomed the Burkina Faso-Pakistan deal as a sign of shifting alliances. India, too, is watching closely, preparing its own partnerships across the continent. Russia, eager to weaken Western influence, applauds every move that strengthens Africa's independence. In this environment, Washington finds itself isolated, its once dominant grip slipping through its fingers. But the fury in the U.S. also comes from fear of exposure. For decades, Washington justified its dominance by claiming it brought stability, development, and prosperity to Africa. Yet the moment Burkina Faso turned elsewhere, prosperity followed. Pakistan offered fair prices, it offered technology, it offered respect. And the United States was left naked, exposed as a power that never intended to develop Africa but only to exploit it. The fury is not just about losing cotton, it is about losing the lie. Now, Burkina Faso stands at the center of a global storm, but it does so with confidence. Its farmers, long ignored and underpaid, are now celebrated as pioneers of a new economy. Its leaders, once mocked as irrelevant, are now at the forefront of global discussions. The fury of the U.S. cannot erase the pride swelling in the streets of Ouagadougou. For the people of Burkina Faso know what this means. They are no longer pawns, they are players. And Pakistan too stands taller. With a steady supply of African cotton, its textile industry is preparing to expand into markets once monopolized by the West. This partnership is more than economics, it is a vision of the global South rising. Together, it is proof that cooperation, not exploitation, can build prosperity. And for Washington, this is the ultimate humiliation. Because every bolt of cloth, every shirt, every garment produced from cotton and Pakistani hands is a reminder that America no longer holds the strings. As we look to the future, the fury of the U.S. will not fade, it will intensify. Washington will try everything: propaganda, sanctions, covert operations. It will seek to destabilize Burkina Faso, to pressure Pakistan, to bribe neighboring nations. But none of it will succeed because the tide has turned. The global south has tasted sovereignty, and once tasted, it cannot be forgotten. This cotton deal is the first domino. Next will be cocoa, uranium, oil, lithium, coffee. Every resource once controlled by Western hands will find new markets, new partners, and new systems free of American domination. The fury of the US is the sound of an empire collapsing, and like all empires before it, it cannot stop the future. So let us conclude with this truth. Burkina Faso and Pakistan have not merely signed a cotton deal, they have signed a declaration of independence. They have humiliated the United States not with armies, not with weapons, but with the quiet power of partnership. They have proven that trade, when based on respect and equality, is stronger than exploitation. And they have shown the world that Africa and Asia together can build a new order, one in which the West is no longer master but one player among many. The fury of the United States is real, but it is also meaningless, because the cotton fields of Burkina Faso and the textile factories of Pakistan are now weaving a future that America cannot control. A future in which the global south stands tall. A future in which Africa and Asia rise together. A future in which the United States, furious and isolated, must finally face the truth. The age of its dominance is over, and history will remember that it all began with cotton.